Hello, my name is Margarita, and in this episode of Kitchen Science, we are going to learn all about sourdough yeast and how it grows. Welcome to the Lawrence at Home. I am a teacher at the Lawrence Hall of Science, and this is our effort to bring videos like story times, DIY challenges, and nature walks. So, if you like this video, please subscribe and give us a big thumbs up to show us some love. So what are we going to be doing today? In this video, we are going to be learning about Saccharomyces Cerevisiae, or Sarah for short. So what could Saccharomyces Cerevisiae be? This is a scientific name for sourdough yeast. So let's talk a little bit about what a sourdough starter is. What is this? Well, before you make a sourdough, you have to grow the yeast, and this is what we call a sourdough starter. Growing your starter can take anywhere from 7 to 14 days. And during this time, you have to tend to it every day like it's your baby. This includes feeding, discarding, and making sure the conditions of your ecosystem are satisfactory. So I said an interesting word there. Ecosystem. Do you know what this word means? Ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. In this case, it's the interaction between flour and water. And that's the only two things that you need to grow the yeast. Isn't that awesome? But that's only the easiest part of this experiment. The hardest part is making sure that your baby, your sourdough starter, is well taken care of. So how do you nurture this delicate environment? Saccharomyces Cerevisiae is found in warm, moist environments. The yeast feeds on sugar found naturally in the flour. And you have to discard some of the yeast every day in order to control its population growth. Otherwise, it will take over the whole ecosystem, aka your kitchen, and it will run out of its food. So what is Saccharomyces Cerevisiae? Well, like I said before, it's a sourdough yeast, and it's a type of yeast used to kickstart fermentation and make bread rise. Fermentation is what makes the yeast active. It makes it wake up. So what's actually happening here? In the bread process, the yeast eats sugar, and then it creates carbon dioxide, CO2, and then the CO2 gets trapped in the starter and creates bubbles. This is what makes the bread rise. So the idea is you feed your starter every day, and then you get an active yeast. Once you have an active starter, that's when you could start making bread. And what's amazing about sourdough starter is that it grows on its own. And that's why I want to take you through my own journey. I'm going to talk about how my science experiment went, what went wrong, what did I do to troubleshoot, and most importantly, above all things, what did I learn? What did I take away from this experiment? All good scientists learn by asking questions, experimenting, testing, and retesting, and I'm going to share all of that with you today. Okay, so after looking through many different types of recipes, I decided to go by this process. The first 3 days are just feeding days. That means equal parts flour in a glass jar every 24 hours for 3 days. No discarding. I used a scale to measure up my ingredients, but if you don't have a scale, that's okay. I measured 70 grams of each, and it ends up being a little less than a half a cup of flour and in between 1/3 and 1/4 cups of water. So you want your starter to have a thick pancake batter-like consistency. When storing my starter, I needed a controlled environment, somewhere where the temperature doesn't change much. I chose the cupboard, which was consistently measuring at around 72 degrees. While much didn't change on the first day, I did notice a little hint of sweetness in the scent on the second day. On day 3, we're definitely starting to see some activity here. The fermentation process has begun. There's a little layer of bubbles starting to form at the top, and our little ecosystem is looking pretty good so far. Those bubbles there are a good indication of yeast cultivation. And you can even see some of those CO2 bubbles as I'm mixing through it here. Now day 3 is when I started to discard half of my starter before feeding it again. At some point during this process, you're going to want to do this. This is to make sure our yeast has enough food to keep growing, but you don't have to waste it. Did you know that you can cook with your discarded starter? Here, I've made a simple kimchi pancake with a little salt and sesame seeds. The sourness from the starter pairs really well with the fermented flavor of the kimchi. On day 4, we're starting to see bigger bubbles, and the sour smell is much more noticeable. But overall, no big changes. On day 5 and 6 is when I started to get a little worried. I wasn't seeing enough activity as I liked. From most research that I had done, day 5 and 6 are supposed to be pretty active. That is, we should be noticing a lot more bubbles and maybe even some rise in the starter. When a starter is active, it sometimes grows twice its size in just a couple of hours. As a result, I decided to change up my methods a little bit. Here, you'll notice I put my starter in a fresh new container, and I'm really focusing on getting my measurements right. I also started to use warmer tap water. While some recipes said it's okay to use room temperature water, others suggest using warmer water. These are all steps to ensure the best possible environment for our little yeast baby. I also decided to start storing it in the oven since the temperature was a little bit warmer there. Then I read that it sometimes helps to stir your starter a couple times a day to encourage more activity. As you can see here, it's definitely starting to look better than before, a little thicker and a little bit more elasticity. Day 7, it does not seem like there is much hope. You might notice that there isn't much activity going on here. Our yeast culture is looking a little sleepy, or dormant as they would call it in the sourdough community, but I continued to feed it as normal and then decided to check in later to see if it had risen. It looked promising, but the float test was the real indicator. If your starter is sufficiently active, it should float at the top of the water. That's how you know it's ready for the bread process.
So did I get bread? No, but I haven't given up quite yet. There are many different methods to making sourdough starter, but this was just my first try and I do intend to try again. So where do I think I went wrong? Well, for starters, I didn't give my starter a name. Many sourdough experts say that you must give your sourdough starter a name for it to thrive. You gotta name your baby. That being said, I think my experiment went wrong in 3 ways. 1, some recipes recommend feeding twice a day. I fed mine once a day. 2, most recipes recommend using distilled water. I used room temperature tap water. They recommend this because tap water can contain chemicals that threaten the conditions of the ecosystem. Tap water can sometimes contain chlorine or other harsh chemicals meant to kill dangerous microorganisms in the water so that it's safe to drink. But this also means that these chemicals can kill the yeast.
And I think this is one of the main reasons why my sourdough starter was just not as active as it could have been. And then number 3. There are different types of flours that yield different results for sourdough starters. I used regular all-purpose flour because that's all I had. But some people recommend using unbleached or organic flours. These tend to have better natural sugars that allow for a better feeding process. So now what? Well, it's back to the drawing board for me. First, I will give my starter a name. Then, I'm gonna try to keep my environment as controlled as possible. That's what's gonna help me figure out exactly where I went wrong. I'm gonna make sure that I start with a fresh, clean container every day. And I'm gonna try and make sure that the temperature is always the same. That's not always the easiest to control. And I'm gonna try feeding it twice a day. But this may not be necessary at a certain point. If your starter becomes really active, you don't have to keep feeding it twice a day. But in my case, since mine was not becoming as active, I probably should have started to feed it twice a day. And then lastly, I will use filtered water, and this is going to help me factor out any uncertainties because we don't want any of those harsh chemicals killing our yeast. Hopefully then I will have created the best possible conditions for Saccharomyces Cerevisiae. And if you do plan on making your own sourdough starter, I challenge you to think a little bit about this and do a little bit of research. I've included some really nice guides down in the description box below, but dig a little bit deeper. Maybe watch some other videos, and at the end of the day, you can choose to make your experiment as simple or as involved as you like. So have fun, be creative, and learn from your mistakes, learn from my mistakes, and hopefully your results will end up better than mine. And with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching. We're so happy to be getting science content out to y'all. If you'd enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.